Back to One is presented by the HBO documentary film Moon Age Daydream, a genre-defying immersion into the art and sounds of David Bowie. Directed, edited, written, and produced by Brett Morgan, and currently available to stream on Max. The film is the first of its kind to be supported by the David Bowie estate, granting Morgan unprecedented access to its collection, which encompasses a lifetime of materials, including an extensive catalog of unseen footage and personal collection of his own art and poetry. Morgan spent 4 years assembling the film and another 18 months designing the soundscape, animations, and color palette with award-winning collaborators like Bowie's music producer Tony Visconti and Academy Award-winning sound mixer Paul Massey. Told through sublime kaleidoscopic imagery, personal footage, unseen performances, and anchored by David Bowie's own music and words, Moon Age Daydream invites audiences to immerse themselves in the unique world that is Bowie. Throughout his career, across generations, David Bowie taught us that our differences were our strengths. With Moon Age Daydream, Bowie provides us with a roadmap of how to survive the 21st century, inviting audiences to celebrate his legacy and enduring influence like never before. Moon Age Daydream is currently Emmy eligible. More at hbomaxfyc.com.
You have to say yes to the director and the playwright. You just say yes, 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 as much as possible. You take it in and you receive as much as possible and you show them. And if they nod, you're like, you just keep doing it. You keep doing it. You keep doing it. And so when the play opens, it's like you taking in so much like chi or whatever. You know what I mean? You got so much energy from all this like thinking that you've done. And then you flip it and then it's yours.
Filmmaker Magazine presents Back to One with Peter Rinaldi.
Matthew Maher is an actor. He sat down with me in cyberspace to talk about the work.
I've never studied at the actual actor studio, but I've taken acting classes out with like a woman. She's no longer with us, but when I first got to New York, someone who herself had studied with Lee Strasberg, and it was just completely confounding to me. Like it was all sense memory and accessing your true self and unblocking. And it just there was some value to it because it really put me in mind of like really paying attention to how you feel, but that is just like such a tiny piece of it. And I always found when I sat in once on an acting class being run by famous actor. She was in Bonnie and Clyde. She won an Oscar for Bonnie and Clyde. Her name is
Estelle Parsons.
Estelle Parsons, yeah.
Yes.
There's just something about the vibe of like a aging genius who's just saying like, what's going on here? You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, totally shuts me down.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, don't talk to me like that. Like, I've never been able to really get into that mode of like the thing that they really satirize very kind of ruthlessly in Barry. Do you watch Barry?
Yes.
Yeah. So Gene Cousineau is like a spoof with that. And I think it's not fair. I mean, I think those classes are actually, some of those teachers are geniuses. Yeah. And I think a lot of actors, great actors, like access something with the help of,
Yes.
I have no judgment.
Yes.
About that, Terry Knickerbocker, the late William Esper, the great teachers, and I'm sure Estelle Parsons. But for myself, I'm always a little like, maybe you're wrong.
Yeah.
And, I don't know. And I took a really good class by this guy Scott Freeman. He has his own shingle now called, like, he worked with at the Actors Center, and he was great. He was an actor, and it was almost disappointingly the other thing. Like all of his advice was like really, really
Practical.
Yeah, like super practical. And everyone in the class had a career. I mean, I barely had a career, but we were doing plays, you know.
Yeah.
It was like 1997. So I was flattered that and everyone else had more of a career than me, but they were doing stuff.
Yeah.
And he always was like, but he had some good little tips.
Yeah.
He had great tips. It was like it was all for tips.
Right.
And
little tools. Little tools you could use.
Yeah, tons of great little tools. In my experience, and this is what I love, like so much of rehearsing and being on set is problem solving. Like you're problem solving. You are carrying, you solve the problem by being cast. And now you have to like figure out these very practical themes. And if you're stopping everything by being like, that doesn't feel truthful to me, you know, which is something that I have said, but like you have to stopping everything by making a statement like saying like, this doesn't feel truthful to me. I feel like a lot of times when actors say that, what they're doing is like, I don't feel in control, and I'm going to seize control by doing to you what my acting teachers did to me, which is to like hold the whole situation hostage until I feel comfortable. And what the statement of like, this doesn't feel truthful to me, what it's supposed to be is like, I sense a problem for all of us. That's as soon as it is figured out, or if you, the director, are telling me like, it is what I want. So then it's like, okay, that's what you want. I'm gonna figure this out on my own. But if I'm asking a question, do you, director, how are you feeling? Do you, playwright, how are you feeling about this moment? Do you sense what I am sensing? If the answer is no, then the actor's like, okay, well, I'm going to go figure out how I can be there for myself and do this in the way you want to do it. And 9 times out of 10, directors and playwrights are like, yeah, interesting, right, okay, I see what you're saying. Let's, and then something better comes in,
Right.
And I want to do one caveat to the acting teacher guru thing is that actually the truth, before I moved to New York, I had the great luck of actually having I had an amazing high school acting teacher named Jerry Becca, who his main thing was that this is all fun and games and it's glamorous, but it's actually work. Like you have to work, you have to memorize, you have to show up prepared, you have to, we were high school students, so this has to fit in with like your development as a person curriculum, but it worked. It worked, we would do like half-hour long warm-ups with stretching and centering, and like I don't even know what I learned as and then there was actual acting notes, but it was mostly like break down the script, read the script, break down the beats. It was like drilling into us like that. It's like anything, it's a series of tasks.
Right.
And despite my weird snarkiness about method acting, in college, I had 2 acting teachers, Greg Fritsch and Marcia Taylor, Greg in particular, who was a great believer in Meisner. And he also was like a mad genius, but and was also like, are you telling me? He would be like, I'm going to peer into your soul. But he just did it with such love. Like he loved, and he was like so into it when you would discover something that he took no pleasure from the power. He took no pleasure from the power. It was all discovery. And it was like a whole year of like the repetition exercise, which is the most miserable acting class thing in the world, but he fucking drilled it and it changed. It literally rewired my brain. And so the whole idea of living truthfully under imaginary circumstances is, I will say, if you want, like, in terms of the philosophy of acting, where I stand, because of Greg and also Marcia, I'm a Meisner person, which I think, in the way I was taught it, I've never read his book, is the most adaptable. It's the most like, you can just, and because the imaginary circumstances involve not just the play, but it involves your other actors.
Right.
You know what I mean? They involve the director's vision, the set designer, and the costume designer. They involve everything.
Right.
The imaginary circumstances include, one time if you're in a play and you have to be in love with somebody, and and you're not in love with them. I mean, 2 times I've had to be in plays where I was like, had to be in love with like this beautiful woman. And the fact is like, both these women are close friends, end up being close friends of mine, but I was not in love with them. And, I did not want to marry them or be with them. I liked hanging out with them, but I did not. And so what are you going to do? That's an imaginary circumstance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I've done plays where I was like, did have a crush on a woman. There you go, problem solved. But if the imaginary circumstance, like, I had to wire into the characters, like, I am a person who loves, who would fall head over heels with that person.
Right.
That's it. That's part of it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And so you have to, that's your, you know what I mean? It's the same as like your character has a limp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is so interesting that was so early on as a foundation for you, those teachers, right? You're talking about high school.
High school and college.
And college. And this was like, sounds like such a good foundational thing about work ethic and working hard, but then also this practical kind of approach too, that you keep utilizing even now.
Yeah, I do the same warm-ups in my trailer or backstage that I did in high school.
See that?
Literally, there's like a centering exercise that Jerry taught us that involved like deep breathing with like our arm. I don't know how it works. I mean, it's probably bullshit, you know what I mean? But it works, and at the end of it, I feel centered, and I need to do it.
Amazing.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like various little like sun salutations that I did when I was like literally a teenager, I still do, like, as like a middle-aged man in like a trailer.
Amazing.
It's because, on some level, like, you have to connect with the person that you were when you were like, got really into acting.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So because it's such a ridiculous profession, it's preposterous. It's a preposterous way to live your life. It's not adult. It's not at least in the way that our society conceives of adulthood. I do not have an adult profession. And so you need to like maintain access to your childlike self. And that's not about like, you know what I mean? Like, childhood is very serious, or my I was very serious. And by child, I really mean when I was like 17 to 24. I really only got into acting, honestly. And I said this in other interviews. It's my favorite bit, but it's true, is that acting in my high school was cool. And the girls were cute and, interesting and sexy. And the guys were fucking cool and funny. You know what I mean? And I just wanted to be around like funny, attractive people, because I didn't think I was funny or attractive. And I wanted to be around funny, attractive girls because I didn't know how to talk to them. And done. And right. I'm happily married now, and I'm not in it for that reason. But the idea of like of like mixing it up with a strange group of people,
Yeah.
that is still the juice. Oh, what's going on? What's his deal? What's her deal? You know, okay,
Yeah.
let's talk. Let's chat. And
Yeah.
then that's still it. And working with Greg and Marcia, that I was like, oh, and then there's this other creative component that works for me.
Yeah.
It works for like my uh personality. Because another thing I think about acting, or it's tricky that actors suffer from, is that like it's at its root, it's not generative, you know, obviously.
Right.
Um and I think I and a lot of people struggle with that fact, and the fact that like, you know, and which is why so many actors turn to writing and screenplays, so they have something for them to act in, or directing, or producing their own work. I mean, I think that a lot of that is practical because it's just like really hard to get a job without that. But it's also just, for me, it was also like, what do I do? I mean, what the fuck do I do with my life? What am I doing with my life? And it wasn't until I finally gave up writing, and I never wanted to direct, but and I stopped like trying to produce my own work because I hated it.
Mm.
And I was not a good writer, or I was like a fine writer, but like I had friends who were just so much better, you know, and we're like really committed to like
Mm-hmm.
imagining a world, you know,
Mm-hmm.
with language, or like I'm telling a story. I'm like, yeah, I want to be in that.
Mm-hmm.
I would just drop whatever I was writing immediately and just be like, oh yeah, I'll do that. It's an adaptive art form. It's an art of adapting, like absorbing other people's choices and owning them as your choice. And
Yes.
that's hard. You know,
Yes.
that's not fucking easy. You have to talk and behave like you chose these clothes, like you chose these are words that you are saying, that they reflect who you are, that you're in love with that person, that you don't like this person, that you live in this world, and it's like not a big deal. And that includes like doing like, when I first started in New York, it was like doing a lot of like avant-garde theater, which
Mm-hmm.
involves like talking into microphones, like turning at right angles, and doing like doing very overt. And the theater that I was really into back then, like a Wooster Group or Elevator Repair Service, where they're really like not trying, or not into naturalism. And for a long time, I was like, I'm not into naturalism either, even though um, that's just the world I found myself in.
Were you actually into that stuff, or were you just trying to put your feet into a lot of different things and seeing what fit?
I mean, a little from column A and a little from column
Yeah.
B. I am interested in doing lots of different things. And I felt like I was not, just because like of how I looked and sound and where people were the most interested in me. I felt like downtown theater in the 90s was like where it was at.
Mm-hmm.
Like I applied to Yale, I didn't get in. NYU, I didn't get in. Um, I was just like, where I had entree was like this theater scene that was like big on Ludlow Street and the Lower East Side. Um, you know, like Mac Wellman and Richard Foreman and Kirk Bromley, who like, you know, wrote his own verse plays, and I did a lot of work with him, and you know, this theater called like the Cucaracha Theater, which was again very big in the off Broadway scene back then, and it was just a lot of like, yeah, formal exercises,
Mm.
not exercises, for like the form is we're talking. There's the form was a big part of it,
Mm-hmm.
so it was very like um anti-naturalism,
Mm-hmm.
or I'm describing it. I'm worried that the people who were doing that work back then would be like, Matt doesn't know what he's talking about. But my feeling at the time was like, it was theater for its own sake. It was not
Yeah.
pretending like, let me pull you into this world. And I was into it because it was fun. again, those people were having a good time. And it was sexy. You know what I mean? It was cool. And it was cool because, again, like the best performers, particularly like Richard Foreman, I don't know if you remember, if you saw any of his work, totally bananas.
Right.
But the best performers in it were like, you know, they'd be wearing top hats and saying completely surrealistic things and like, you know, doing wild dance poses for no reason. And some performers did it and they were like completely like, this is what they were completely naturalistic within it. And I was like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
They're that like they don't look like a guy like just talking to a microphone. They look like a creature and this is what they do. I mean, David Patrick Kelly, who's the great film and theater actor, I saw him in a Richard Foreman play. He was like mind blowing because even though like he does Walter Hill movies and, you know, now he does a lot of musicals, back then he did Richard Foreman plays and he was just, it was all the same. And I feel like people like that are like Willem Dafoe. I mean, Willem Dafoe, the Wooster Group, you see him or, you know, Scott Shepherd now, it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
You know? And I really emulated that. This is one thing that Scott Freeman, one idea that acting teacher put in my head, which is very useful, is that what you want to do is you want to like resolve the paradoxes of your character. You know what I mean? You don't like the greatest performances of anything, particularly these hard roles like Hamlet or like Nora in A Doll's House or the, you know, Iago or Vanya or these Chekhov's is to fully lean into everything that the character is, and instead, because the best characters are actually like they're like this and they're like this. They're contradictions, and the best performances realize that you can't think through contradictions in character. You just have to like be that person and then be the other person and know that your body, yourself is resolving these conflicts. Like, you know, like with the Meisner thing, it's like, you know, you think of all these things as like obstructions, you know, the play itself, the text itself is an obstruction. It's saying you can only say this.
Right.
And then you've got the directing and you've got your other actors and you got your costume and all these things are like, I think of them like those vellum pages on like architecture where you can see everything else.
Yeah.
But you're laying it on top of it.
Yeah.
And there's just like a tiny, tiny, tiny little lane that's untouched where there's no line and that's you.
Interesting.
And you that's just you. And you have to be honest. And like, I think of my job, it's like snuggling like into that lane and pushing against all the constraints without breaking them.
That's very,
you know what I mean?
interesting.
Like you want to flex, you want to create tension between who you are as a person and all the constraints that have been put on you.
And that's what we get to see, that tension.
That tension is the performance.
Right.
That tension is the performance. And the best actors I know, you don't shy, like Philip Seymour Hoffman, you know, so much creative tension.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's like his self is just like bursting, but he doesn't break it.
Yeah.
He doesn't talk in a different way. Like the voice of, you know, Truman Capote's voice still has that voice. You don't break your accent. Okay, all these things, but the self is just like,
yes,
that's, you know, Mark Rylance too, doing all these different roles. He's just like in there. He's gonna get out, you know. But he can't, and also all he can do is just make it seem like, oh, like Olivia in 12th Night is just a character he made up. You know what I mean? And then you're like, well, what's she gonna do? And you forget that you've seen 12 Nights like 7 times already. So you know what Olivia does. But like when you have a total performance, like you just don't know.
Right.
What's Nora gonna do
Yeah.
in adolescence? Like how's
It's a
she gonna?
miracle. It's a miracle.
It's a miracle.
Yeah.
It's a miracle where you can
It's new.
forget.
It's new. It's new.
Yeah, it's new, and that's the only way to make it new.
Jeez. How long? I mean, is this something that took a really long time? That what you just said there to settle into that idea, because you said that was talked about from by that teacher, right? But did it take a long time to actually settle into that?
Yeah, it did. What helped is that in my life, and again, this is partially like my temperament, is that a lot of my close friends are writers and directors. I have friends who are actors. I mean, some of my close friends are actors, but I have I'm really drawn to writers and directors as friends and as colleagues, largely because they're making things, and I'm like, what the fuck is that? I'm not getting back, and and so I'm very in awe and very respectful of what they do, and it's like, I actually teach a class we haven't taught in a long time, but for a while we were teaching a lot with Heidi Schreck. Do you know who that is?
Yes.
She's a playwright and an actor, great playwright, great actor, and we sort of came up in the same, not in the 90s time that I was talking about, but after that, I started doing work with a theater company called Club Thumb and a theater company called The Civilians. And Heidi was sort of part of, Soho Rep, downtown theater companies that were interested in plays, and the plays were a weird thing. And we, the performers, had to like get inside the weirdness of the play. So there was it's very like playwright focused scene, which is really, and then those playwrights many of them became successful and brought me and Heidi, and who also then became a playwright, along with them. You know what I mean?
See, nice move.
Yeah, that's what I tell all young actors. Any young actors listening to this, don't, definitely try and get a job with like Paul Thomas Anderson or, the head, the big theater directors or whatever. But the people who are going to make your career and make your life interesting are the people your age who are like also trying to figure it out. Find those people, find your people.
Right.
And when they come up, you will go with them. Right. And they will be like, and people will be like, I want to be a part of that scene. And all the scenes that you want to be a part of were created before you even knew about these people.
Right.
And
good point.
Anyway, for that reason, and I've just always been very fascinated about. I've been more fascinated about what writers do and directors do than about what actors do. Always. I'm not like, and so Heidi and I actually, and the playwright Anne Washburn asked us to create a class. It was a text analysis play about how to understand plays, how to read a play and see it not just for like your character, but try and understand what the deeper concerns of the playwright are. And that includes tone, and like what we arrived at was just this idea is that like every playwright has a deep, I mean, this is a tricky theory, but I haven't explained it in a while, but I'm going to stick with it, is that has something akin to like a joke, one joke that they're telling over and over again. And the joke is, or one like dramatic concept that can only be really explained by writing a whole play. And they are saying that thing over and over again. And the same is true with like filmmakers who are like great, like the Coen brothers or Scorsese. Like, if you look at all, there's the same thing
Yeah.
is being worked on and communicated every
Yeah.
time. And one of the jobs as an actor, or so Heidi and I believe, and that is undertaught in like actor studio-esque classes, is that like it's your job to understand what that joke is. You know, you should figure it out because you're the one, and particularly this is true of the plays that we were teaching and working on at the time, which were written by Annie Baker, Anne Washburn, Will Eno, Ethan Lipton, Claire Barron. That like a lot of what is being offered is tone. That like they're not plot based. You're not like
Right.
watching it to be like, what's gonna happen? You're watching it to be like, what does this world mean? And what is this, how is this world like ours?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, and, you know, Annie Baker is naturalism. People say it's naturalism, and it's, in many ways it is, but it's not really.
Mm-hmm.
It's in fact intensely choreographed.
Mm-hmm.
Like each beat is like, each pause is like a very specific length and usually longer than most people pause for, you
Right,
know,
right.
like, you know, it's like Pinter, you know,
Right.
Pinter, there's an idea, there's a joke, there's a thing he's saying
Right.
about people in the world.
Right.
And what is it? Well, you have to watch his plays to really say it, because you can't just say it in one sentence.
Right. But wait, but speak about Annie Baker, because when you were doing the flick, was this like a thing where of obviously the pauses, because I did read that play, they're baked in there, they're in there, they're, you know, it's not like something that's like you're saying it's calculated. But when you guys are rehearsing, is she there with whoever was directing that? Maybe was it Sam Gold?
Sam Gold.
Yeah. Was she with him, like making sure you understood how long that has to be? And was that already like kind of forced into you guys, almost like the text would be?
Yeah, like the pauses and the existing between it is part of the text and needs to be like understood. And now the lengths would change, but almost always they would just get longer. You know what I mean? Like the note was always like, that pause is not long enough. Like we need to open up
Yeah.
the pause.
Yeah.
And, you know, I had the good fortune to have seen two previous Annie Baker plays that Sam had directed,
Mm-hmm.
The Aliens and Circle Mirror Transformation,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that Heidi was in. And, you know, they were happening around about the same time. So I saw them in close succession. And of course, like everybody's mind was blown. And
Yeah.
my mind was blown along with everybody else. And particularly by the Aliens. Circle Mirror's a great play, but the Aliens, like, I was like, you know, it rewired my brain, you know, Michael Chernus and that. And I had that feeling that I had before, which is like, I want to be in a play like that.
Yeah.
And so I knew it worked.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is what I want. I want these two people. I want Sam and Annie telling me what to do.
Yeah.
I want, and then as an actor, it's not just, I want to understand the choice, and then I want to own it.
Yes.
You know, and that's what being an actor is. And that's what ultimately Heidi and I were trying to teach him. So like, you have to say yes to the director and the playwright. You just say yes, 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 as much as possible. You take it in and you receive as much as possible, and you show them. And if they nod, you're like, you just keep doing it. You keep doing it. You keep doing it. And so when the play opens, it's like you taking in so much like chi or whatever. You know what I mean? You got so much energy from all this like thinking that you've done. And then you flip it, and then it's yours. And that's how because people, all our students were like, well, what do you do? Like, if you're just a puppet, you know,
Right.
it's just like, you're not a puppet. You're learning, and then you're going to if what you feel like you need is control, remember the fact that like actors have all the control. Actually, if I was in the middle of a flick to start singing,
that would be the play.
a show tune, all the audience would be like, yeah, the flick was great. I mean, then there was that scene where he did the show tune, and Andy and Sam could do nothing. They could do nothing to prevent me from doing it. And so all this taking in is a little bit like mitigating the fact that like it's on me. The play is me. And so you take it all in and you win their trust, and then you do exactly what they're said, and then you become the play. You are the play.
Yeah.
You and the set, that's the play. They're not seeing Annie and Sam. And so, and there's enormous power in that, and enormous intimacy in that with your collaborators. Like you're taking something from them, and then showing it to them as if it's your idea. And so, if you are doing that, there's a possibility, I think, for a great, really intimate collaboration between directors and writers. Like a possibility to really, really get at something really exciting if they are willing to trust you, and you are willing to like justify their risks by saying like, yeah, take that risk. I'm taking a risk. I'm taking your risk. I'm doing it more. I'm doing it more. And so they're like, okay, we're going to keep going. And then to do it and then own it, fully take it. It's very intimate and very exciting. And I think it's that sort of trust that, you can get some great creative partnerships going. And that is what interests me the most.
What you're saying here is there is this natural curiosity you have about people, this natural energy you pull from great people that you're using in this way, even when you're being directed. Like you're saying yes, like you're saying, you're accepting the information. Then you are, like you said, you have to do that process where you own it.
Yeah.
But I'm sure your students have said this, and they were almost saying it there in the example you gave, but there's got to be a moment where you're feeling pretty good toward the end, and then you're given a note that is completely like foreign to what you think this character is. And you have no idea why they would want you to do this certain thing. And it feels like you suddenly start to feel your hands, and you realize you're becoming stiff because of this note, and you have to do it though. How do you transition that into ownership when it's so foreign to what you think is right?
You just got to work. You just got to work it. You just got to work it like untangling hip bones. Like Sam, before the flick, the previous thing I worked on with Sam and Annie was Uncle Vanya. And
oh right, she translated Uncle Vanya, didn't she?
Really great show. I played Waffle, who's small, not very big part, but some great stuff. And there's this scene where, if you know the play, Vanya flips his lid at the professor, his sort of antagonist character, and starts shouting at him. And Waffles, who also sort of lives in this house with all these other characters, and is like, Vanya, please stop it. And I just assumed that in the scene, the scene's about Vanya. And so I'm just like, oh, Vanya, please, come on, stop. Like these little lines that are interjecting. And Sam was like, I want you to flip out. I want you to completely lose your shit. I want the entire scene to become about you when you're gone. And I was like, oh, God. That just, I don't understand why you would do that. And it felt so wrong whenever I would do it. And I feel bad for Reed Birney, who's like, again, it's not that. I mean, Reed still got to really do the scene, and then sort of a third of the way, or maybe through the scene, I like storm out anyway. So it's not like I try to hijack the scene, but I fail. But I think that, and I was like a couple of times, I was like, Sam, this is wrong. I just feel really weird and wrong, like whipping out and suddenly yelling at, you know what I mean? It's just not, the scene's not about me. He's like, I don't care. You have to do that. And it took me like half the run to not feel like it did. But then actually, for me, that became, if you trust your director and you trust the writing, which is hard. Like a lot of times you're in something that's not that good, or you're with a director who you don't agree, but like agreeing with the director is like, sometimes your good director doesn't know what they're doing, but oftentimes like it's not a question of agreeing with your director. Like the director is giving you a note, and if the director's really good, then you have to trust the note. There's nothing, you can't like battle it, because if you battle a director's note, then you're lost in a wilderness,
Right.
because you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
You don't know what this being seen. And like tons of people would say like, oh my God, that was so amazing when you did that. Like it cracked open the whole scene. And my sister, who I actually rely on a lot, she's a therapist. And she's just the way her mind works. I called her, I was like, I have to do this. Why am I doing this? And she was like, because that is what happens in family systems. It's like you're a child of divorce. The two power centers of the thing are like fighting.
Yeah.
And you're like, and that's what you're like, you're acting out. And you're like, I can't do it. Like,
yeah.
And you have to know the play. But she's like, the owning of that moment, as Sam conceived it, completely changed the character.
Yeah.
In a way that made the character effective. And you just gotta like, if you get that note and you don't trust the director or you don't trust the writing, then you're fucked anyway. You're fucked.
You might as well, you're making the point where you may as well, if you're fucked, you may as well just go with the note, because at least that's a life jacket in the water.
It's the only thing that you have. You don't know what's going on in the play that you're in.
Right.
You don't know what they're seeing. Like all you have is like this rope that you follow through the woods. That's all you have.
Right.
And if you're in a show or play or a movie where you're like, this rope sucks, well, you're fucked anyway. That's the problem. That's the real problem. Yeah. Is that you found yourself in a show that sucks, that you don't like.
Yeah.
Or maybe that people love, or maybe it's great, but you don't like it.
Yeah.
And then there's nothing to do about that.
Yeah. You might as well be in the play, fully in the play you don't like, then try and be pulling your idea of it. Then it really sucks for everyone. Really
and you look like an asshole.
Right.
And you are kind of an asshole, I may say.
Yeah.
And you're hurting your career because the worst, because people are going to be like, oh, what's he like to work with? And it's like, well, I gave him direction and he never followed it. And like, you see those performances where they're like, they're writing something. It's just like, dude, all I'm looking at is your acting. And I'm not, and it's taking me out of it.
Right. It's confession time. I have been following you since you came in to an audition in 1995.
Not 95.
1995 at SVA. For a student film. The reason why I remember you is because of your superpower, which some people call a speech impediment. I was just on the camera. It wasn't my project. I think these guys dismissed you because of that. And I was saying, that guy's amazing. I swear, Matthew, I really said this. And then you're never going to believe this. A year later, I'm in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and I go to see Three Sisters.
Yeah.
Okay, Matthew, are you starting to believe me now? I'm in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and there you are on the stage. And I told my friend, I saw that guy in an audition in New York, and I knew he was great, and here he is in this play. This is why when I see you in things, I remember this. I remember this moment where I trust myself more. My instinct about you keeps getting Validated. That's it.
That's right.
That's it.
Yeah. I appreciate that. I was dark. Wow. I mean, I remember backstage open calls for student films. I've been very fortunate. I've had a very fortunate career in that, like, I've been able to do lots of different things, and the growth of my profile and my access to greater jobs has always gone up since that. It's gone up very incrementally slowly. You know what I mean? Like, I was saying to a friend once that, like, I feel like I'm on a donkey, like riding a donkey up a very tall mountain, but it is, and like sometimes the express train goes by and we'll be like, oh, and be like, I just had a drink with that guy. Like, oh, I guess he's going to the top. All right, good for him. Oh, hey, bye, hey. And like, you know, and I've been doing this now for almost, you know, over 25 years, and there's still a lot more I want to do and a lot more to achieve and that I want to do. But along the way, the advantage of like a very, very slow build is that I've been able to like immerse myself in lots of different types of work.
Yes.
And all that work has sort of changed me. And, you know, it is my experience with the speech impediment, and I want to mention it again for people listening, is like, it's just a classic thing. It's like the thing that makes you different is going to limit you, but it's also going to save you, you know? And so that, like, yeah, I lost. I mean, had I not, if I didn't have a cleft out and a speech impediment, I could, who knows, maybe I'd be an Oscar winner right now, or I wouldn't have a career at all, because it's like in my experience, my direct experience is that, like, it's no. But like, if someone calls me back, I'm probably going to get it.
Right.
And if it goes well, I'm going to work with this person a bunch, because people who I connect with, like Sam Gold, you know, the director who I've mentioned a couple times, we've worked together like 6 times now, you know, more than for me than any other director. And the first thing he cast me in was The Doll's House, and playing Dr. Rank. And Dr. Rank has syphilis, and like childhood syphilis, and I sort of realized in rehearsal, like, oh, this is one idea he had to cast me, was that, like, back then, before you treated syphilis, people would grow up and they would have like cleft palates. So like I got syphilis, the character got syphilis in birth. In utero, that often leads to my situation. And so I think I was just like, oh, I'm going to cast Matt. Like, which is not to say, like, that's the only reason he cast me.
Right.
He knew my work. We've done readings together. And that's the last time that there's been any justification for it.
Right.
Every other character, the Flip Annie Baker wrote for me, but then Othello, King Lear, this pilot, they're all because of, like, he's just, I think this is true of a lot of people I work with, they just forget about it. You know, and my goal as an actor is to sort of make the world, my career goal, my ego goal is to just make the world forget about it, you know, and it's working out. Like, if you're just but you don't want to be aware of why you're watching somebody or why they're different. You know what I mean?
Right.
But eventually, like, they're different, and I don't know. It's not that I want them to forget about it, but you just take in a part of it just the way you take in the fact that, like, Willem Dafoe is actually kind of a really weird looking guy.
That's right.
Or so John Malkovich, who was a movie star when I was in high school, being like, I could never be an actor. Oh, wait a minute. John Malkovich is bald and his eyes are really close together and he looks evil and he's in Dangerous Liaisons.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And he's like romancing Michelle Pfeiffer. You know what I mean? It's just, I was like, yeah, anybody can do it.
Yes.
Fucking anybody can do it. You know what I mean? But you just have to, like, lean into yourself.
Yes.
I mean, again, notice I'm a huge John Malkovich fan of his acting. Aside from the fact that he inspired me to do it, like, I don't mean that like he's not talented, but
yeah,
if you have self-conviction, that's what people are going to go see.
Yes.
Steve Buscemi, is actually a very handsome guy in person, but on movies he looks like an odd person, but he like has a conviction himself.
That's right.
He's sexy. I mean, there's a way you can just decide that you're sexy.
Yeah.
And people be like, that guy's fucking sexy.
Exactly.
It's
weird
how
that works.
That's dramatic.
Yes.
Like, people want that.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That sort of drama of self is what creates an acting career.
Yes. Matthew Maher, whatever you have to do to keep feeding that donkey, to keep its legs moving, I want you to do it.
A few have died. I've had to bury many donkeys.
Oh, this is the third donkey?
Yeah, I'd get them when they're young and just drive them now.
Well, this is news.
It's the same donkey.
We thought it was the same. It looks the same. This is a headline.
It's like that. It's like how in that Netflix documentary, that octopus teacher that everyone loves. It turns out there are like 9 octopuses. It's not the same octopus.
I didn't know this until right now.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah, I think it. I mean, maybe Netflix is going to sue me, but somebody told me that.
Oh God.
Anyway, yeah.
All right, but just keep whatever donkey you're on moving because it's benefiting us. We love you. Please come back on this show.
I would love to be back on. Thank you, Peter. I love talking about myself and about the work. And thank you for sticking up for me in 1995.
Yes. Back to One is a production of Filmmaker Magazine, which is a publication of The Gotham, formerly IFP. Listen to back episodes of this podcast at filmmakermagazine.com or wherever you get your podcasts.